Hey everybody, it's Queen Jelly here, and welcome to, or welcome back to The Toy Box. This is a doll and toy themed YouTube channel meant for adult collectors like myself. With that being said, today is going to be episode 2 of our Hauntlywood Mysteries unboxing. So today we are going to be going with Frankie Stein, our favorite non-binary ghoul. I am so very excited for this one. From what I've seen, because obviously I haven't full media block out on these. These are a little bit older, but for what I've seen, I'm really excited about the face screening on this doll. So I cannot wait to get them open. I think that's about all that I have to say for right away. Other than I'm weird. I don't mind silver and gold mixing, so that's not going to bother me on this doll. But yeah, I think we're going to go ahead and get them on the desk. So we are now on the desk with Frankie. As you can see, I do actually have 2 copies of this doll. I don't think I've ever opened with 2 copies of the same doll at the same time. That is because I typically will get one at full price and then wait to get the second one on a clearance. However, I actually purchased both of these on clearance, one for $18 and one for $12. With Frankie specifically, they're the only character that I typically will buy a duplicate of for the purpose of redressing. So I have some other previous Frankies as well that I mix and match the pieces from the other duplicates that I have to make new ones, because Frankie is my favorite of the core characters. I do actually now have some duplicate caddies, and that's the first character besides Frankie that I've ever had dupes of specifically. If you watched my Claudine video, I did a little bit more detailed breakdown of the unboxing process. However, for this one, I'm just going to go ahead and unbox everything, and then I will show you all of it on the 2 dolls at the end, which is why I'm going ahead and unboxing both of them now so that I can kind of show you multiple options at the same time. So before we unbox, this of course is a blue themed case because it is the Frankie Stein one. We have the image of the 3 different characters on the back. In this series was Caddy, Frankie, and Claudine. It says 125 plus looks, 19 plus surprises, doll and fashion pieces included. And if I haven't said already, this is the Monstrous Skulltimate Secrets Monster High Hauntlywood Mysteries. So this is part of the wave 6 because we had the first 3 that were in the coffin shape, and then this was the 3rd and final one in this elevator shape. This is my least favorite so far of the reveal types. The first ones were okay. The suitcase ones I've had some issues with, but I did like that it was kind of like one and done. There wasn't too much fuss with the vacation ones, but at the same time they kind of didn't feel like they even needed to be mystery at that point. But I'm not a huge fan of the way that these display. Now I do like that you can add in a waist clip and kind of clip the doll to it, but they're not as nice for hanging on the wall the way that the original coffins were, where they kind of sat pretty flush and then you could have the door open with the doll inside. This one, like I said, you either have to have the doll hang off of the front or with this part here at the top extended out so you can see the doll. So it's not my favorite way of displaying them, but it does have its pros with having closet sections on either side. Anyway, I think that's enough talking before we get into the doll. right, now that we have Frankie out of their packaging, we can talk about what they come with. But also, this Frankie is amazing. I love this blue color that they did for their hair. Stop, it's so pretty. But yeah, we will totally get to talk about them in just a moment. But what I want to start with is their additional things, specifically the things that are related to just the case. So I know it's hard to see it because of the limited space that I have here for display, but we have our shelf that goes up, and as you saw, that come in a piece of plastic, so that's kind of hard to duplicate, right, unless you put them back in the plastic. So instead they come with this little piece right here that shifts up and down so that you can essentially put them back into the elevator to put them back down to either just store them or redo the reveal, however you'd like. These are essentially intended to be reusable play sets, so that they're not just a useless piece of plastic. I'm going to attempt to see if I can figure out a way to display this on the wall in a way that I like. Like I said, this right here is a waist clip that you can hook into any one of these 6 hearts here, depending on the height that you need for the doll, and use that as a display. So I don't know how secure it is, but I think the intent is for you to kind of hook them up like that. Let me see if, yeah, the lower hole is going to be too short, but that one's kind of too tall for them, unfortunately, because they're, yeah, so I think that's going to be like kind of the only way to really like display them where you could see them is if you trust this hook to hold onto them while this is hanging on the wall. They do have these areas here in the back so that you can put a nail through them and hang them easier. I'm going to try and do command hooks because the way that I hung up my coffins resulted in some of them falling. So I'm going to try a different method. But for right now, that is what that is for. Like I said, it can go in any of these 6 holes on either side, depending on what height you want to display the doll at. And then we have, of course, this piece right here. This goes into the closet half and is a little area where you can hang the hangers. So Frankie comes with 2 light pink hangers with the skelet. This is the same mold that we've seen for all the other hangers in the series. And they just go right here. And then there is a shelf on this side as well as another shelf on this side here. And it does not. I was wondering if it had the bracket so you could hang it, but it definitely can only hang on this side. Now, as for what they come with as accessories, we have their jacket, which is a short sleeve gray jacket with a battery pattern. I'm not sure what else that would be. It's a bunch of squares that kind of look like they're either charged or drained on the sleeves, and then the base is kind of like a gray silver with a white faux collar. We have the semi see-through skirt, which is going to be blue with lightning bolts and regular bolts on them, or actually those would be nuts technically, the little circles. Then we have a blue pleather skirt, which kind of has like a almost alligator like design to it. They're kind of hexagonal scale patterns, and then a blue trim. I really like the color that they used for this one. And then we have their purse that has metal hardware for the handle. It has an F charm, of course, for Frankie, a little bit of black paint here on the front to kind of give it some definition. It is a solid piece of plastic and does not open. However, it is molded differently on the back to look as if there is a pocket here. I do like that it is in the marbled material, or like marbled design here, so that each one is most likely going to be slightly unique because that's just the nature of marbling. They come with that same kind of, I call it like a news reporter microphone that Claudine had. I don't know if there's if there is a specific description of these that kind of explains the theme behind them, but for me, this one kind of feels like the monstrous mysteries that they're uncovering is the Hollywood scoop, and they are, like I said, high-end reporters, kind of at like, I don't know, like big like a big movie premiere. Then Frankie comes with 2 bracelets. Just like Claudine, they are both identical. These ones appear to be made out of silver like chains. They are open in the back. They have a pink choker necklace. It looks to be made out of 2 different layers. So we have a thin chain up here with the jewel hanging off of it, and then below it we have some more like stitches. Then they have their shoes. They have 1 silver and 1 gold. Same mold otherwise, but that's not surprising for Frankie. They do tend to have 2 different, when it comes with their shoes or anything like that, they're typically one's usually taller than the other or shorter than the other, you could say, because of their prosthetic leg, but in this case we just have 2 different colored designs. They have a lattice design going all the way up the top, and the toes are solid. There is some bolting and stitching going around the rims, as well as some bolts here on the back. And the bottom of the gold shoe is a close-up of Frankie's eye, and the bottom of the silver shoe says Frankie Stein. It is their autograph in a film reel design. So that is, we'll see if that's the same on Caddy's, but so far that is consistent with Claudine's design. And then we have their sunglasses, which are these small black triangles with bolts on the sides. I will do my best to remember to put these on a Frankie so we can see them later, but these probably will not stay on the final Frankie. It kind of just depends, but these aren't, like, I'm not the biggest fan of these sunglasses. And then we have the neutral colored hands. So we have a flat hand, and then we have a curved hand. They do appear, in my opinion, to be like a half of a heart. I assumed that they would have like the other hand also in half of a heart, but each one has come like this. I don't know if it's the intent of them being able to hold like the accessories that they come in this shape, but that's my guess, is that it's meant to kind of grip the or look more like it's gripping the accessory. That is all of the loose things that we have. I'm gonna push this back, and then here is Frankie themselves. Again, as I was saying earlier, I really like the color of this hair, and their hair feels so much softer than Claudine's. Claudine's felt so crunchy and dry, but Frankie's feels really nice. Not like the softest thing ever, but it is pretty nice. It is poly, it's well treated. It's this like almost like a navy blue with black lowlights, and then we have silver streaks in their hair going all the way down the part line, and then their bangs area, so their face framing, is all in white and silver tinsel. I may take that down on one of my copies of Frankie just to see what it looks like, but they do have kind of a sideburn going on just because of how low their hairline is. I think it looks really, really cute, and it really allows you to be able to see their face, which, like, look at that face. Again, I really like the very like high glam looks that they did with this series. It really fits well with the like Hauntlywood aesthetic that they were going for. Obviously, like, we don't want all of the Monster High dolls to be super high glam, because again, most of them are just going to class. But with these ones, especially with them being like either celebrities or reporting on celebrities, the high glam really works for this design and this like theme. This design is relatively simple, but it still feels very high glam because it feels very intentional. You have a very stark pink line here at the top, followed by silver underneath, which really highlights the large black eyelashes. Underneath is a blue streak with kind of boxy designs underneath, kind of meant to feel very much like liner rather than just shadow. Then if we look at their under eyelashes, they each have a lightning bolt at the farthest corner, which really helps sell the Frankie look, of course. And then they actually don't seem to have any blushing on at all, but they do have, of course, their stitch here on the cheek. And then they have a light pink lined with a slightly darker pink lip. Then down here we have their stitches on their neck. And then they are quite controversial in this line for having both silver and gold accessories. Again, that's not something that's personally ever bothered me, and especially I feel like makes sense with Frankie. It's very typical to have Frankie in kind of unconventional patterns or clashing designs. They have a large silver chest piece that has dangles all around it. Obviously everything is molded into place, but it's meant to look like kind of like tassels hanging off of lightning bolts. And this here in the center, if it will focus, almost kind of looks like a zipper pull right here down the center. They have a gold belt with a caution sign on it, and it is made out of nuts all the way around. These do have 2 size adjusters, so we have it currently on the smallest, and then there is 1 size bigger that it could go. We'll look at the outfit in a moment, but first I want to show you these shoes. So these shoes are this dark blue color with we have a gold and a silver kind of like bracer on top of it to make them look different, kind of like how we have 1 silver and 1 gold shoe of the other design. If we take this off, it is relatively simple underneath with just kind of a stitched leather look. We have a zipper here on the side and an open heel in the back. And then the heels themselves appear to also be made out of zippers, just kind of like how there was this zipper here on the top of the chest piece. And then on the bottom of their shoes, they do have these stars and stitching patterns. They do appear to have skullets in the bottom of each shoe. It is possible that this one over here is actually the Frankie skullet and this one is the generic one. However, I could just be imagining that, but that's what it looks like to me. Now, I am going to take off these 2 pieces here so that we can take a look at the outfit underneath. Well, I started off with Hope, and in the last 30 seconds, all Hope has just gone to die. First of all, there is some paint transfer here on the first Frankie's chest. So this is the one that I've been opening. And so then I decided to open the other one so that I could show you what it looked like and see it without the paint transfer. And this knee is basically busted. I can't get it to bend all the way, and the only reason I've gotten to bend as much as I have is because I've heated it up so much. But you can see that there is already wear on the joint, and so this leg is probably going to break off at some point, and sometime sooner than I would like it to, which is really really disgustingly disappointing. I've had some issues with some jointing in the past, but like we're way past the point when that should be an issue. Like these dolls have been around for long enough that that shouldn't be an issue anymore. Also, the ring light keeps overheating, so I'm going to have to buy a new one, even though this one is not that old, because something happened to the plug while I was not using it, and so I'm very frustrated. Let me just show you really quickly. This is what the leg looks like without anything on it. I do like that it is molded. We've had a disco mold before with the Monster Fest Frankie, but this time it also has these stars molded in, which I think is really cool. I love when they actually play around with Frankie's leg. At first we just got a lot of the same over and over again, but I'm glad to see that they've been doing more and more with them as the series goes on. This is the jumpsuit underneath. I'm not super fond of this because I don't really like overalls or like one pieces like this, so I'm not super fond of it being the shorts. However, I do think that this is a better base than the dress that Claudine had, so I definitely wouldn't have her wear it just like this, whereas the Claudine I might have had her wear just the dress. But I do think that this again will be better for underneath the skirts, as personally I wear shorts underneath whenever I wear skirts or anything like that. So this is a better base layer, but not necessarily the best just general layer, if that makes sense. And as with the others, it does have a stitching or like embroidery here across the top to make it look more fitted. And then the pattern is that same kind of like what I would say is like charging blocks as we saw on the jacket and also on the paper that held everything in it. And then They have the same kind of faux gloves as Claudine that are fabric sleeves kind of thing that cover up the arm. And then their hand is molded. What I'm just noticing on Frankie, and I went back and looked, and Claudine does have it as well, but I didn't notice, was the extended nails on these hands. So they have like the long, like claw nails. There is a heart stitched on the hand here, and then they are wearing a ring. And on this side, they have the same heart stitched on, but they have different rings on this hand as well. I think it's just the blue allows the nails to be seen a lot better than the purple. They kind of blended all into one. But yeah, so there is the base doll without anything on it at all. And now I'm going to do a silver look on one and a gold look on the other. All right, so now I have Frankie here in two different variants. So I have one wearing all of the silver accessories and one of them wearing all of the gold accessories. Now, as you can see, there's clearly a lot more going on in silver, which makes sense because Frankie's primary color does tend to be more in the silver tones. So it makes sense that there is primary accessories in the silver. I was originally going to give the gloved hands to the gold design just because there was so much going on this one. However, there is technically silver printing on the hands and in the rings. So in order to keep consistency, I did give them still to this one. This one also makes the most sense with the boot on this side because Frankie does tend to wear the shorter boot on the prosthetic side, whereas with the gold it is flipped and the shorter boot would be on their regular side, their flesh side. I don't know how you would want to describe that without sounding weird, but again, it is possible to remove one or the other accessories. Again, the base doll is very heavy in silver, from the tinsel on their hair to the stitching here on the like shirt area. So definitely removing the silver isn't as possible, but you can remove all of the gold, which honestly, I really like this design. Again, as I've said before, I'm not super against mixing silver and gold. That's just not something that personally bothers me, but I do know that bothers a lot of people. So I just wanted to show the possibilities of it. However, I do actually genuinely like how like put together this one looks, having all just gold accessory, or sorry, having all just silver accessories, from the jacket again to the hands. Now, I don't think the bracelets really work on top of the gloves. However, at the same time, they can kind of help that transition point to make it less obvious that the hands are separate from the gloves. So that is definitely, as with everything on these dolls, a personal choice. You can do either with or without the gloves. Again, I just put them on to show all of the accessories at once. But again, here are some options that you can have with this Hauntlywood Frankie. Now, I'm glad that I did not get mine at full price, considering the issues that I had with them. However, both of the issues that I had were with the physical doll themselves. So this one being the issue with the knee and this one being the issue with the paint transfer. However, with the design of this doll, I am very happy. I really like the way that the face looks. I really like the mix and match with these. That's always been a very strong suit with these mystery dolls, that you can customize them and make them look the way that you would like to. Sometimes dolls can kind of fall into this category of like, oh, this is the set that's meant to go together. And so then if you mix it up, it kind of doesn't look right at all because you're like, oh, well, this isn't what was supposed to go together. However, then you also sometimes have the opposite problem where none of the pieces match because they're so designed to be mix and match. But I think this one kind of falls in the middle where you can mix it with the other pieces, but it doesn't feel awkward to mix it with the other pieces because there doesn't seem to be like a specific set design. Does that make sense? I hope it does. Because again, excusing the physical issues, I would probably give this doll like a 9. With the physical issues, I'd probably say like an 8. Frankie just is one of those characters, like I said, that means a lot to me, and I'm glad that I have duplicates, and it was very important to me to have a second one, and so I can't really, and like, especially considering that there's different issues on both of them, it's not like I can combine one and make it, like, it's not like one has a face issue and one has a body issue. So I could just like swap it over and have one that's like the play one that's like not in the best condition, because both of them have separate issues. Now, I do think I'll be able to remove this paint transfer from here on their chest, but it's still frustrating that I should have to do that in the first place. So just something to know if you guys are still possibly looking to get these dolls. Anyway, I think that's all that I have to say for them for right now. Please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and we will see you very soon. Actually, in fact, tomorrow for Candy Noir's unboxing, which hopefully will go a little bit smoother than Frankie's. Bye.